Short Story 64, The Adventurous Inventor. Evelyn Tinkerbell, with mismatched socks and hair the colour of a startled sunrise, was never one for ordinary. Her playground wasn't a swing set, but a labyrinth of circuits and sprockets in her garage-turned-workshop. Her toys weren't dolls, but half-finished contraptions that promised to levitate cats or toast entire Sunday roasts with laser beams. One stormy afternoon, amidst the rhythmic clanging of metal and whirr of soldering irons, Evelyn heard a squawk that sliced through the usual symphony of her inventions. Perched on a dusty wrench was a parrot, its emerald feathers shimmering like polished jewels, a ruby ring glinting on its leg. "Ahoy there, landlubber," the parrot declared, his voice surprisingly gruff for such a tiny bird. "Captain Squawk at your service, navigator of uncharted skies and unmentionable beasties." Evelyn blinked, then grinned. A talking parrot. This was definitely not in the workshop manual. Intrigued, she offered Captain Squawk a biscuit salvaged from the tool cabinet. Birdseed seemed oddly out of place amidst wrenches and screwdrivers. Thus began an unlikely partnership. Captain Squawk, with his tales of a fantastical island called Flibitonia, home to singing jellyfish, clockwork butterflies, and clouds that grumbled like grumpy grandfathers, ignited the embers of Evelyn's adventurous spirit. He spoke of ancient riddles guarding forgotten temples, rivers of molten chocolate, and trees that grew gears instead of leaves. Fueled by Captain Squawk's map, scrawled on a napkin in what suspiciously looked like ketchup, Evelyn set about building a sky-worthy vessel. Gears whirred, twisted, and metal sheets clanged as the garage transformed into a chaotic shipyard. The Cloud Hopper, a rickety contraption resembling a steampunk kite, crossed with a flying bathtub, was the result. Their journey was anything but smooth. Grumpy clouds pelted them with hailstones that tasted suspiciously like Brussels sprouts. Rogue robots mistook them for oversized cogs, and a particularly nasty flock of squawking pigeons threatened to dismantle the cloudhopper feather by feather. But Captain Squawk, with his salty wisdom and surprisingly helpful pecking skills, guided them through each predicament. Finally, after days of dodging aerial hazards and befriending a singing cloud named Nimbus, who preferred show tunes to rain, they spotted it. Flibitonia, a jewel of floating islands bathed in technicolor sunlight. Landing near a clockwork forest, inhabited by surprisingly polite butterflies, Evelyn and Captain Squawk found themselves before a giant, moss-covered gate. Inscribed on it was a riddle, as promised by the ketchup map. Captain Squawk, after much head-scratching and feather-ruffling, finally deciphered it. What has an eye but cannot see, and hands but cannot touch? Evelyn, with a glint in her eye, reached for the gear-shaped handle on her belt. Her inventions, she realized, were the answer. Her creations, though imperfect and wobbly, had brought joy and wonder to others. They were her eyes, her hands, her way of touching the world. The gate hummed open, revealing a world beyond imagination. Flibitonia welcomed them with open arms, or more accurately, open leaves and whirring gears. Singing jellyfish illuminated the night. Chocolate rivers bubbled merrily, and the grumpy clouds, it turned out, just needed a good ear-scratching. Evelyn and Captain Squawk spent days exploring the island, marvelling at its wonders and sharing their own stories. Evelyn, inspired by Flibitonia's ingenuity, even managed to fix a faulty cloud pump, earning the grumpy squidellers eternal gratitude, and a lifetime supply of Brussels sprout-flavoured hailstones, which they apparently quite enjoyed. Finally, it was time to return. Though Flibbletonia beckoned them to stay, the call of home and the next crazy invention waiting to be born was too strong. With a bittersweet farewell, they took to the skies, Captain Squawk promising more adventures to come. Back in her workshop, surrounded by the familiar symphony of clanking and whirring, Evelyn felt different. Flibbletonia had ignited her imagination, proving that the most fantastical worlds could be found not just on faraway islands, but also in the sparks of her own creativity. And with Captain Squawk perched on her shoulder, squawking encouragement and occasionally stealing her biscuits, she knew the next adventure was just a gear turn away. Vocabulary notes. General. Unlikely partnership. A collaboration between two people or things that are not expected to work well together. Embers of adventurous spirit. The small remaining traces of a desire for excitement and exploration. Fantastical. Extremely imaginative and unreal, like something from a fairy tale. Predicament. A difficult or unpleasant situation. Technicolor sunlight. Vividly coloured sunlight emphasising the magical and unusual nature of the island. Moss-covered gate. A large door or entrance covered in green moss, suggesting age and mystery. Bittersweet farewell. A goodbye that is both sad and happy. Inventions and mechanics. Garage turned workshop. A space originally used for parking a car that has been converted into a place for working on projects. Labyrinths of circuits and sprockets. A complicated network of electrical pathways and geared teeth used to describe the cluttered workshop. Half-finished contraptions. Inventions that are still under construction, not yet completed. Soldering irons. Tools used to melt metal and join electrical components. Skyworthy vessel. A vehicle capable of flying or travelling through the air. Gears whirred, wires twisted, metal sheets clanged. Descriptive verbs and sounds depicting the construction of the cloudhopper. Rogue robots. Robots that are malfunctioning or out of control. Clockwork forest. A forest inhabited by mechanical creatures or machines that resemble living things. Gear-shaped handle. A handle or knob that resembles a gear, adding to the steampunk-inspired aesthetic. Character descriptions. Mismatched socks and hair the colour of startled sunrise. A detailed description of Evelyn's appearance suggesting her unconventional and creative personality. Emerald feathers shimmering like polished jewels. Vivid imagery to describe Captain Squawk's striking appearance. Ruby ring glinting on its leg. A detail that adds to Captain Squawk's mysteriousness and hints at his possible origin. Salty wisdom. Informal expression describing someone's practical and experienced advice, often gained through difficult experiences. Grumpy clouds pelted them with hailstones. Descriptive language that personifies the clouds and makes them seem more interesting and threatening. Singing jellyfish illuminated the night. A fantastical image that enhances the magical atmosphere of Flibbletonia. Story written by Google Bard AI, image created by Desgo.com AI. Hello, this is Steve. If you enjoyed the story, please would you click on the like icon and take the time to leave a comment. If you want to know when the next story has been uploaded, please click on the notify bell icon to be notified. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and tell your English learning friends so they can benefit too. Thank you.